everyone, and welcome to our YA Meet the Creator interview for March 2025. And I'm really, really happy because today I'm going to be interviewing Lucy Bryan about her wonderful graphic novel, which is called Thieves. And any of you that have seen anything I've been in before know that graphic novels is one of my great loves. So I'm very happy about this. Welcome, Lucy. Thank you for coming to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Now, I understand this is your debut graphic novel. So, what have you been working on up till now?
So basically, after I finished art school, I debuted doing mostly illustration work. So I wasn't writing; I was mostly illustrating, and I did like kids' books, comics, but I was only drawing them. And it's after like a few years that I got the offer to do my own graphic novel, and I did. I did Thieves at that time. I think I started working on it in 2020, and it came out in 2022 in French. And it came out in English, I think, the same year, like 6 or 8 months later.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the story that's in the
Yes.
novel?
So it tells the story of a girl named Ella, who's a high school student. She's like, she's the cool girl. She goes to a lot of parties. Everyone loves her. And she has this crush on a girl that's in her class that she doesn't know how to approach or talk to. And one day, Ella goes to a party and she drinks a bit too much, kind of blacks out. And when she wakes up, she finds out she stole a bunch of things from the house where the party was taking place. So she embarks on the journey to return all of the items to their owners, while also trying to handle the fact that now the girl she has a crush on, Madeleine, is aware of her and also maybe returning her crush. So, and that's the start of the story.
That's a perfect summary. Absolutely
Thank
perfect.
you.
Um, so, why were you drawn to a graphic novel? Are you yourself a reader of graphic novels? I mean, I know, of course, bande dessinée is very
Yeah.
popular, isn't it, in France? So, did you grow up with graphic novels?
Oh, definitely. Like bande dessinée, graphic novels, manga, like they've all been part of my life for so long. And I mean, at least for me, they're like the best narrative. Um, like this, they're what I prefer to read and how I prefer to engage with stories. I love the mix of art and literature and everything that they can convey and how many different things they can convey. And I think they're just so interesting. So I've always been really, really drawn to comics. I think I started drawing comics when I was 10 or 11. Before I was only writing. And then one day I was like, oh, I could actually make comics. And I started and I never stopped. So that's all I've ever wanted to do. So now I feel like when I think about stories I want to tell or things I want to write, I always envision them as comics and never as like, oh, maybe this time I could do prose or like I know some people are more malleable, but for me it's always been like comics. They're my preferred expression and like way of telling stories.
There's nothing wrong with that at all, Lucy. Nothing wrong with that. I absolutely love graphic novels and always have done. I mean, it's not quite the same over in the UK. We don't have the same um, strong graphic novel growing up.
Mm,
But of course, things like the Beano and Dandy and that sort of thing have always been very, very popular, and
mm,
they were my favourite things to read when I was young, a long time ago. So I loved your character development through the
thank you.
story. And I really felt for them, and I believed in the feelings they were feeling. Are they based on anyone in real life, or do they come to you fully formed? How's your character development work?
I think so. They're not based on anyone, but like they're based maybe on the ideas of different people that I've met and encountered all through my life. And then I feel like the story and the characters, like they write themselves together. Like as I write the story, I think about like how the characters are going to move through that story. And then, sometimes I'm kind of stuck on something and I'm like thinking about the character, who is Ella, who Madeleine is, and how they would react to certain things happening to them. So I feel like I work everything entangled. Like I remember writing, like going through the first half of the book, and being like you follow the relationship as it develops and it gets stronger. I was like, but there's this big thing of like Ella having stolen so many things. I was like, how is Madeleine gonna react when she finds out? Is she gonna find out? How does she find out? And as I was writing all this, I was like, oh, maybe this is how her character is gonna develop through that. And it's kind of like um, watching a movie over and over in my head, where like I can change the endings and like I try something and I try to play it out in my head and like, I don't think she would react like this because like that's not how I wrote her in the first part. And that's I try to figure out how everything takes place. I do basically just like an outline of the book, like where it starts, when it ends, and where I want to take my characters along the way. And then the characters, they in a way they take part in writing the book, where they're
Yeah.
like, I think this is how we're going to do this. I'm like, oh, interesting. And I try things and I see, I feel like when you write character driven stories, you can feel when it's all of a sudden it's out of character, of like it sounds
Yeah.
like something they wouldn't do. So I think that's the main focus for me as I write and develop the characters. Like, does it still feel true with what I wrote at the beginning and how I established them?
Hmm. Yeah. So it actually becomes quite organic in a way because, as you say,
Yeah,
they're kind of writing themselves because
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So the story has, of course, got strong themes of young love
Hmm.
and kleptomania and also bullying. There is a bit of
Hmm.
bullying in there as well. But the thing I also thought came across really strongly to me was the theme of friendship and the importance of those friendships to young people.
Hmm.
And was that something you really wanted to get across?
Oh, definitely. I think because I really love romance as a genre, but I always felt frustrated at how, I felt like every romance story started with the main character having a friend and then that friend disappearing in the middle of the story as soon as the
Yeah,
romance started. And I think it's so important to, if anything, like can be like passed from this book. It's like you can cherish like love, and but you also have to cherish your friends because they're the people that are gonna stick by you like for a long, long time. And
mhm,
how friend. I feel like in our culture, maybe like friendship does have this tendency to take a step back as soon as romance is involved. And I think it's so important to encourage people to live them equally and like
yeah,
cherish them equally. So, in a way, when you're like writing a book for teenagers, like, what am I going to say with this book? Because, it's such a formative age. Like, I've read things when I was a teenager that really influenced me or like shaped who I am as a person
yeah,
today. So, you still, you kind of have like this responsibility of being like, okay, I don't want to write something that they're going to be like, I hope they don't take this the wrong way. You kind of have to think like, how is it going to read? And I don't know, I feel like I do love strong friendships, and I think especially when you write about women, because like if you go back through the culture, like we've been taught to see other women as like rivals or like
yeah.
enemies for so long. I felt like it was so important to write a strong female friendship,
Mhm.
something that would be, that would show that these are the friendships that are gonna carry you and help you, and that you have to nurture.
Mm. I couldn't agree more. I think that's the problem. Okay, I can only speak from my personal experience, but I
Yeah,
know when I was a teenager, your love partner
yeah,
becomes everything, and those
definitely,
those friendships you tend to neglect, and it's something you will regret forever.
definitely,
Because your friends
and it's
are everything. Let's face it; they're there for the good sides of the bad side. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I really picked up on that when I was reading it. I was like,
I'm glad.
yes, yes, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
So, are we allowed to ask what you're working on next?
So I actually did another graphic novel that came out last year in France, and I think it's coming out in English this year. That's called Happy Endings. So it's a short story collection. In it, you can find three short stories. with three very different themes, but it does, kind of like meet, like everything meets at the end, and there's this ongoing, theme of like this is a happy ending book. So it's a really sweet one. I had a ton of fun doing it because graphic novels, they take so long to make. They take like 2, 3 years to like write, draw, color, and everything. So I really wanted to experiment on like shorter form to be able to like every 6 months be like, I want to try something else. So I did happy endings and I had a lot of fun doing it. And right now I've just like started working on a new project, and like I'm back with teenagers, and I'm working on a story about like three girls at a like really strict private school who decide to like start a rock band.
Excellent.
And I think it's going to be a really fun one. Like I'm really excited to start working on it. I'm like in talks with my editors right now, but it's going to happen. So I'm excited.
Well, as a rock music fan,
Ah,
you're speaking my language. That sounds amazing. I will be looking
thank you.
forward to that. So
Thank you.
just to finish us off, have you got any graphic novel or comic recommendations for us that, because
Yes,
it's
always.
always something, comics and graphic novels in schools are so popular, but we're always looking for more recommendations.
All right, so I'm trying to think about like stuff that I know has been published in English. Well, one of my favorite English speaking cartoonists has been Gillian Tamaki. She's made like a really good graphic novel called This One Summer a few years ago, and she came out with a new one 2 years ago called Roaming, which I've really really enjoyed. Um, she works with a cousin whose name is Mariko Tamaki, I think. They're both Canadian. They're really good. Like in manga, if you want to read something that's teenagers doing things, friendship, really, I think it just came out this year. There's a manga called Neighborhood Story.
Uh-huh.
It's an old-ish, I think it's from the 90s manga, but like a young girl who's really into fashion, and she designs her own clothes. She goes to art school. She has tons of friends, and it has like this really nice energy about like being creative, finding a way for yourself. There's a bit of romance, but there's also a lot of friendship, nurturing a friend group, and I think it's such a wonderful manga. I read it as a teenager and loved it, and like I still revisit it today, and I'm like, oh, so good. So
That sounds amazing because, to be fair, we are always being asked for manga,
yeah.
but you have to be a little bit careful with manga. So it's really nice to get a recommendation.
I'm so glad. I think the thing is with manga, it's like either you have someone who really enjoys it, reads a lot of it, and can direct you, or like you don't know anything, and it's just this vast sea of everything being like muddled
Yeah.
together. So it's hard to, but like I think in France we've always had manga. Like we've been like one of those really really interesting country that has got manga like a long time ago. So I've read it all my life, and now I read everything. But I remember as a teenager, like reading a bit of everything and being like, "Oh, maybe not that," and then
Yeah.
having to pick out something else.
To be fair, I think lots of young people do self-regulate anyway. If they start
Yeah,
reading something and they're not comfortable with it, they'll stop.
I think that's the thing. Like I do, I remember like signing thieves in some places in France, and like having parents like read the summary and be like, oh, it's rough, like, it has alcohol and stuff. She's a bit too young, and then I see like a young girl coming by and she has like the most violent manga in her arms, and I'm like, I think she knows what she likes. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, we have sadly run out of time, but it's been absolutely lovely talking to you, Lucy, and I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to the new one. It's got a rock band in it. Come on, it's got to be brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.